This is for Kim Jeff Dela Cruz. Um, and he's having trouble with his crystals. And so the first and foremost thing, I think the shapes are okay. But the thing that you really want to pay attention to in crystals are the whole aspect of, and I'm just going to really quickly trace this out. The whole aspect of the crystal is not so much the solid color of it, but the transparent color of it. And I think a lot of people tend to forget that. So all I'm doing here, and I think if I'm right, oh, that's awesome. So you just copied. Okay, so I'm just going to take this, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that layer, and I'm going to grab that, and let's go out and grab this layer. Alright, so now that these are on separate layers, and then what I'm going to do is just simply grab your background, and we're going to transform that over. Okay, so now that these are on separate layers, the first thing that you really want to pay attention to is you want to be able to really see the shine. So this stuff is like glass. So a lot of times you're going to really get that glaring crystal look. So what I would say right off the bat, I'm going to do the color one first, and I'll show you things that you can do. Okay, so in the color one, what I would do is I would just start by adding in, and oh, I'm gonna multiply, that's why it's not working. Okay, so adding in the real high value highlights. Um, so things like this, and that's really going to kind of push the whole aspect of the way this crystal is kind of appearing to you. And so, just adding in um, these really bright highlights where the light is actually shining is going to give you that big of a kind of aspect of what the crystal is. So just pushing where the light is coming from um, is going to help you out quite a bit. Now, figuring out where the light is coming from, that tends to be another story. And what I generally say is if the light is coming at a direct angle. So basically, um, say you have a ball, and I'm just going to do this like this. So if you're looking at it like this, oh God, I drew my eye backwards. Okay, so yeah, tired eye. All right, so if you're looking at it like this, um, and the light is refracting, so say your light source is over here, and it's basically, so the light is shining down like this. So this is your highlight area here, but the strongest point of light is this, like so. So that's generally where your glint is, and that's usually what pops the most. And that's usually the area that it's kind of that 90-degree angle where the light is, precisely perpendicular. Um, and that's kind of how to explain it. So you have to kind of work on the logic of it and kind of piece it together yourself. So in this area here, I would say, I'm just gonna add some real quick highlights in there. And so you want to add those highlights in there, and that's the key area. So once you're done with that, you also want to go in, and you have to realize that the darkest areas are going to be the areas that are away from the light. So you've got the right idea by putting this light here because it's refracting away from the light. This is a good area too, so that's okay. I think just the brighter highlights is really going to push it. But the next area you have to realize is that in this, what happens is the light tends to you eventually see through a lot of it. It's not completely 100% transparent, but this is where you take your hardness down, and oops, not that much. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change our brush settings to roughly 50-50, and I'm just going to lower this. And I've got pressure sensitive on automatically, so I'm just going to kind of start pulling away. Oops, and it actually helps to be on that layer, right? So that's a little bit too much. Let's see if I go 510. So I've got this, and that's a little bit too much, maybe. And I'm just playing with my opacity a little bit, and you want to really kind of not erase everything, but you want to leave the areas where that light is going to show through. And with the gray background, you won't notice it as much, but things like that are going to kind of give you that transparency that you need. Maybe something like that, something like this. And then the other thing too is crystals are very reflective and refractive. So they're going to not only bounce light, but they're also going to they're not only going to bounce light, but they're also going to really push the light onto other objects. So in all reality, this blue that's popping here would actually be blue, and I'm just going to lock this layer real quick. This blue would actually be pushing onto this object here, and I'm just roughing this in, of course. This isn't, accurate. But this blue light is going to be popping in onto the gray object, and then the gray object is going to be pushing its way to the blue as well. So that is something that you really need to kind of pay attention to and watch. And I think those two tips are going to really push your transparency, and the bright highlights are really going to push that crystal look. And then also just realize that on your edges, the edges are weird because a lot of times when you have an edge, so say like this is your edge, you'll get a highlight seam on there. Well, with gems, that generally doesn't work as well as you think. Generally, the highlights are in the areas where the seam is showing up. So I mean, like, you get really bright highlights in certain areas here. I'm just kind of, but then on other areas, like here, where as soon as the angle bends away, you don't get any light at all. And so you really need to observe actual crystals, and that's going to help you out. But I think you've got the right start. I think you just need to go in and kind of play with the brightness a little bit and get that transparency in there. And I think though that's going to really help push your crystal look and kind of put it to the next level, if you will. All right, I hope that helps.